Did they ruin Cloud Retainer, or is she still worth pulling? Well, that depends. Do you want to turn your Eula and Diluc into an airstrike drone or not? You tell me. All joking aside though, did these recent changes to her kit ruin her with her new buffs and nerfs? People are pretty upset, and we've seen this time and time again. I don't blame people for being upset. However, I'm surprised that people are surprised. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you know Cloud Retainer's kit, but long story short, she's a plunge enabler that will add plunging to the meta. She's an Anemo Catalyst that also provides healing that's obviously going to work well with Furina. Basically, any team that Jean works well with Furina, she'll be good with, or characters that will either be exceptional or decent with plunging. She'll have some decent utility, but one aspect of her kit that they nerfed was her crowd control, or what little she had of that. And to my understanding, her actual crowd control was like Sucrose's E level, if not slightly worse on paper. And instead, what they did is they made her more niche than she already was, but buff that niche in general, which, if you've been paying attention to Hoyo all this time, that's what they do. Now again, I do not blame people for being upset or frustrated. I don't agree with these changes, so I think it's a bummer, but I have learned to accept that Hoyoverse does these types of things. They introduce new types of gameplay and mechanics and metas, even if we didn't ask for them. That's just what they do. I think Cloud Retainer will be pretty versatile more than we think. I think that she'll be good on teams that Jean's already good on, so if you don't have Jean, she'll be something to consider if you have Furina. I think she'll be enabling a lot of different characters for plunging type meta, more than we realize. But at the same time, they made her a niche, but not only just any niche, plunging niche, which is probably the most unpopular niche we've ever seen, clearly. Why would they do this? Are they just throwing money away on purpose, taking a very popular character with a great design that people really like, and just pissing money away for no reason? There must be a reason behind this. But we can look back at Genshin's track record and see that this isn't something new. Look at Kokomi with her negative crit rate. We'll get there in a second. But what did they actually do? What did they do exactly? Well, they got rid of her crowd control, or what little of it she had, and increased it with more damage to her plunge. They increased the energy that she actually gets back, and they increase the crit rate in which she can actually give herself and your entire team based on how many people she hits with her plunge. She's not a finished product yet, and I'm not going to dissect her numbers until she's released, tested with a bunch of different team comps, weapons, etc. That's the only way to truly know a character's potential. Trying to see what they do on paper and imagine it in the field seems to be fruitless every time we go over these types of things. However, I do understand people's frustration, but I think their frustration also stems from the fact that nobody really wanted plunging meta to begin with, and the fact that one of the most fan favorite characters recently is a plunge meta just has a lot of people disappointed to begin with. So this is just like the cherry on top. This little detail that they switched really just rubs people the wrong way because Cloud Retainer was such a popular character. She's been around since the game came out. And the fact that people love her design, love Anemo characters in general, and just now she's made to be this really niche plunge meta that people really weren't asking for is just really disappointing people, and I can't blame people for being disappointed. If you're somebody that's been looking forward to Cloud Retainer and anticipating her for a while now, and you really just wanted her to be something other than this, and they just had to make her plunging, like, I get that. I personally, if I could choose, I don't want her to be a plunging character or plunging meta, and I would have preferred them not to do these recent changes, but I am not in the slightest bit surprised that they did this. Again, I don't agree with it, but I'm not surprised. Now, there are still people that are excited for her and interested to try all of these plunge different type team comps and things like that. I do think people are underestimating how many characters will actually be either decent, really good, or very good with this. And don't forget about her burst that will continually heal you, and she'll heal a lot. She'll be a very comfortable character in co-op, the overworld farming. She will have that factor. She will be a comfortable character to have around for those scenarios, and there is potential to build her as a DPS if you don't care about meta and how a character is supposed to be played. That's not off the table. But again, is it something people wanted? Is it something people find fun? Well, that's up to each individual player, obviously. Now, I do think people are also upset that they thought she would replace Jean or be an upgraded Jean. Why wouldn't a limited 5-star Anemo character replace a standard banner character that's been around since the game came out? Well, this is where we get into a gray area. Do we want direct power creep even if it's standard characters? I don't know the right answer to this, but I think this is a lose-lose situation. If you're power creeping characters, you're gonna piss people off. But if characters aren't visibly stronger than characters we've already had, especially if they're ones that are really popular. That's also going to piss people off. So pick your poison. People aren't going to necessarily be able to guarantee themselves that Jean. Is Cloud Retainer going to be good on team comps that Jean is already good on? Yes, I do think so. Is she worth pulling? Well, there's things to look at. Do you have Farina? Do you have characters that plunge? Do you even like plunging in general? And do you already have Jean? These are obvious things to consider, but again remains the question, why remove her crowd control? Well, that is easy to answer. That is because they specifically do not want people to MacGyver Cloud Retainer outside of her niche. What do I mean by this? They just want her to be plunge. They want her to introduce a new type of gameplay and meta, whether to be really strong in terms of raw damage or just a new type of gameplay to have fun and just mix up the combat. That's it. Look what they did with Kokomi when she came out. Now, if you remember leading up to Kokomi's banner in 2.1, we had a juggernaut lineup of new characters that were either DPS or insane offensive utility. And then we get Kokomi, who at the time was labeled as a 5-star Barbara. Why would anyone pull for this character? But people were so excited for her that they were willing to make her work anyway as a DPS. So what did Hoyo do? They literally gave her a negative crit rate, and people couldn't understand this to save their lives. Why would they deliberately sabotage? Like, people were flabbergasted and dumbfounded. Why would they do this? Why would you give a character negative crit rate? That's insane. Well, because they knew people were going to force Kokomi to be something that they're not. I'm not saying I agree with this, I'm just saying that's what they did. Kokomi was meant to be a healer, stabilizer, hydro applicator, and a comfortable character, and people would have definitely tried to turn her into something that she's not. So what they did is prevent that. They just outright gave her negative crit rate and nipped that in the bud. And people were livid, but that's what they did. And that's what they're doing with Cloud Retainer, in my opinion. Why else would they do this, like everyone's saying? Why would you nerf for crowd control? Why do this just to piss people off? They're not doing it to piss people off. They're doing it to deliberately make a statement that she is plunge meta. She's meant to be a plunge enabler, and this is her niche. They don't want people even remotely MacGyvering Cloud Retainer to be something outside of that. Obviously. Again, I don't agree with this, but that is clearly what they're doing, and they've done this in the past. Now, obviously, in hindsight, Kokomi aged pretty damn well, but at the time, people were miserable. Miserable. Why would you give a character negative crit rate? Especially when all we've had up to that point were absolute juggernaut DPS or offensive utility characters. This was absurd at the time. Since Kokomi, though, we've had all shapes and sizes of characters. People have warmed up to different types of gameplay and modes, niche type teams. But the difference now with Cloud Retainer is you're taking a character that people were excited about and made her into the one and only niche that I really think people hated the most. I have not seen too many people that are excited about plunging. However, I have seen people that are optimistic. Do I think Cloud Retainer is going to be as bad as people are saying? I honestly do not. I think she's going to be pretty damn good, actually. I think people are underestimating how many characters she'll make not only good, but unique and still very, very strong. Zhao's an obvious one, gaming, the new 4-star plunging character, but Hu Tao, Diluc, Wriothesley, Xianyun, Keqing, Klee, Noelle. I think all of these characters, and maybe some others I'm missing, are going to be really good with this new meta. The question is, though, is it going to be fun? I can't answer that. That depends on you. I do think there'll be a lot of interesting mix-up, like vape plunge teams and melt plunge teams. I think it could have a lot of potential, and maybe Cloud Retainer ages pretty damn good, but right now, people don't seem to think so. If you're somebody that already knows you don't like this type of gameplay and it's like a write-off, then I guess you already have your answer. If you're somebody that doesn't have any of the best characters or teammates that Cloud Retainer will be good with, well, I think you already have your answer. Do you have Jean already? If you do and already have Farina, maybe you don't need Cloud Retainer. These are all obvious questions that, should be pretty obvious. But most importantly, do you think she's even going to be fun? Now, there are going to be people that literally love the character, love her design, really, really wanted to, but they just can't get around this kit. They just can't seem to warm up to it. If you're one of those people, then all I can really say is I am sorry. Like, this is just the hand we've been dealt. this is just what they wanted for this character, and it's just, if you feel that way, it sucks. There are going to be some people that are pretty pumped about the plunge. Maybe they're excited for this new type of game style. Well, then for those people, I make the most of it. Like, that's great. Me personally, I'm disappointed in the way they went about her kit. It's not what I imagined her being, but I think she's going to be sneaky fun. Like, I can't wait to put her with Eula, Shenhe, and Farina, and just airstrike drone those stupid hilly trolls around the map. I think she's actually going to be kind of like more versatile and enable a lot of characters more than we actually realize. I think the initial hype of people being disappointed right now is kind of clouding that, but I do get the disappointment though, don't get me wrong. However, I also think too that Cloud Retainer is one of those popular characters that people had high hopes for, and just to see the direction that she went, the initial plunging meta, people are like, not what I wanted, but we can make it work. You know, she got some crowd control, she got some healing, she'll work with Farina. You know, she'll be more than a Jean can, because Jean actually pushes characters away instead of having crowd control. And now that they're making her even more niche, even though that niche is being buffed, people are just, they wanted her to be something that she isn't, and it's disappointing. I get that. And Hoyoverse is making it very clear that they don't want her being MacGyvered around what she's meant to do. Although I think her healing and utility alone will be nice to work with Farina, different team comps. Her being Animo gives her a lot of utility as well, but it does suck. I get it. It's frustrating when a character isn't something that you wanted. Like, for me personally, Clorand is the character I've ever looked most forward to in this game for the entire 3.5, however long years I've played it. And I just want her to literally power creep everybody. If I had the choice, I want her to be stronger than every other character we've ever had, because that's how much I like this character. I want her to wield the Triforce of frickin' power, for God's sakes. But I know that I gotta keep my expectations realistic. She might be something I'm totally not expecting, and I gotta be prepared for that. I don't know why Hoyoverse makes the decisions they do. I think they're throwing money away with this whole decision they're going with, but hey, that's what they decided to do. Maybe there's future characters that plunge that we just don't know about yet. I don't know. Maybe it'll be more fun than we realize. But anyways, this is just my take on it. I am sorry if you're disappointed and you feel let down. And for those of you that are still excited and still plan on using her in some pretty wacky, cool team comps to have fun, or if you think she'll be just strong with certain characters that you have, like your D-Luke that's been sitting in your back of your locker for maybe years now, who knows? Well, good on you. I hope you enjoy this character. I hope she actually adds something to your account. Hope you can make the most of it. But on that note, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful and just, I guess, coming to terms with what we're getting. I do think she'll be useful. I do think she'll have her teams that she's really good on. And her plunging within her niche will be good. That Cloud Retainer will actually be a very good plunge niche. Like, it'll be strong, it'll be fun for people that find it fun. But for those of you that really don't like plunging, I think it's a pretty obvious choice what you can do now, and save your primos for that next character that you really, really like their gameplay. So on that note, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.